radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening, Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah. How you doing? Today's Wednesday, March 16th, 2022. 75 days into the new year, only 290 days left. Yeah, man. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of nowhere. A total undisclosed location. But it is beautiful. It is. Yeah. It's beautiful in here. I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black. For KJCR, the Game Changer, and UNX Networks, Race Hobbs, I am your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? All right. Closing out our first-time guests week here on Fade to Black. We're going to do that with tonight. Very special guest, Jazz Shaw. Oh, man, here we go. I'm ready for this. Jazz Shaw is here. We're going to be talking about his latest articles, how he got here. More on that in just a bit. Tomorrow is another Fader night with open lines all night long. Truly the greatest night in all of talk radio in all of the world. It is Fader night. Just hanging out with you guys. So that is tomorrow night. I'll see everybody tomorrow night for Fader night. Okay. All right. Let me do I can do this tomorrow night, but let me see if I can find something real quick, just really quick. And, because I am going to be in Sedona and Phoenix. I'll be in Arizona, this weekend, and, I'll be at the, conference. It is called the Sedona Ascension Retreat, and it is March 18th through the 21st, and it is at the Unity of Sedona, 100 Northview Road, Sedona, Arizona. Okay, so that is, I'll be there on Saturday. Friday night, I'm going to be at the Bradshaw Ranch. I'm going to try and do a live stream from Bradshaw for everybody. And also, I'll be with Michael of Arizona, Michael of Sedona, and Adrian Valera from Disclosure Fest. So we're going to do that. And we're also going to go up on top of this plateau where the Sedona Airport is, and we're going to do some sky watching up there, too. I don't know if I'll be able to live stream from up there, but we'll definitely try to do it. Well, I'll do it from both locations, but it is, again, at the Unity of Sedona, 100 Northview Road, Sedona, Arizona, March 18th through the 21st. And then on Sunday, I will be in Phoenix for the 25th anniversary of the Phoenix Lights with Lynn Katay and everybody else. They will be showing the documentary, The Phoenix Lights. There is going to be some presentations before and a Q&A after, and that's from 1 to 5 p.m., the corner of Shea and Scottsdale Road. And if you're going to be in the area, there's lots of publicity out there for that. You guys know where to go at the movie theater there. It's called the Number 14. And I'll see you there in Phoenix. And then, of course, right back here to L.A. Later on that afternoon. Okay, so that's my weekend. It's going to be cool. It's going to be cool. It's already Wednesday. Got my hair cut. Yep. Got the oil changed. Yep. Got dry cleaning done. Check, check, check. That's right. Yeah. And everything else that has to go along with a road trip. Everything is all set up and go. Okay. So there you go. Tonight, Jazz Shaw is here. And after so many broadcasts here, when you get into this world, that I'm in, I'm going to talk more about this in a minute. But you go and you're excited to be, you're going to reach out to the Stanton Friedmans of the world, and those guests that you just you've admired and read and watched over the years. You do that, and then. And you go through and you do your thing. And I've done quite a few shows between here and coast to coast, somewhere north of 2,000 interviews that I have done. And one thing that I have learned over the years is, of course, learning and getting to information, but it's another first-time guest, a first-time caller, a first time. And it's awesome when that happens. And that's why a first-time guests week here on Fade to Black is such a big deal. It's a big deal to me personally, and it's also a big deal to all of you. And tonight, Jazz Shaw is here to close out another first-time guest week. And I just love it when it happens. And so with that, let's get the show started. Let's get straight to the breaking news. I couldn't believe this. Today, NASA released the first image from the James Webb Space Telescope after sharpening its focus. The first image as the agency plans to start peering into the earliest galaxies in the universe. The image shows a brilliant blazing orange star known as 2-mass J17554-042 plus 6551277. With multiple galaxies in the background. It is an incredible image. I posted it throughout social media. Go and check it out. It's impressive, and it is a sure sign of things to come. Well, the Ukrainian government says it has secured the release of Ivan Fedorov, the mayor of the southern city of Melitopol, who was detained by armed men in the Russian-occupied city back on March 11th. Ukraine officials said that Ivan will return to his duties as mayor of Melitopol very soon, and that the Russian-installed mayor, Galina Danilchenko, will be removed and charged with treason. Wow. Incredible. Prisoner exchange, it turned out to be. There you go. Well, a Russian super yacht, and it's ginormous, by the way. When you see the pictures, a Russian super yacht is stuck in northern Norway as oil suppliers in the area refuse to refuel the vessel amid Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The yacht, it's called Ragnar, is owned by Russian oligarch and former KGB agent Vladimir Strzelovsky, an old friend and buddy of Vlad Putin. There you go. The crew's like, hey, we're 16 people from the West. We don't know the owner of this boat. And they were like, well, then break out the oars. They literally said, row back to Russia. And the boat sits. There you go. Earlier today, a 7.3 magnitude earthquake hit eastern Japan, cutting power to millions of homes and leading to a tsunami advisory being issued around the Fukushima prefecture, where a 2011 quake caused a disaster at that nuclear power plant. Those injured from the quake have been taken to the hospital in Fukushima's Soma City, and power has been restored in all of Tokyo. The quake had a preliminary epicenter depth of 37 miles, and the tsunami advisory was made for Fukushima and Miyagi prefectures in eastern Japan. Absolutely incredible. Let's get the show cracking. Happy birthday to today, Alan Tudyk. Yeah, resident alien. And, you know, in Resident Alien, right now, we're in the egg episodes, right? Okay, if you know what I'm talking, I'm not going to, no spoiler alert, but right now it's all about eggs. And I'm just going to say this. Firefly. If you go back to Firefly, everybody on Firefly was great. There's yes, and I get that. But Alan, he was a scene stealer in Firefly. He was great. And so there you go. Alan today is, oh man, how old is he today? 38? Flavor Flav today is 62. Jimmy Nail today is 68. I talk about Jimmy Nail all the time. And before you go, what? Yeah. Still Crazy. And if you haven't seen the movie Still Crazy, you need to go and watch it because it's one of my favorite movies. And Guitar Goddess Nancy Wilson today is 68. Incredible. You know what I did today? I would do it for you right now, but I would get hit. But I listened to Dreamboat Annie. Oh, man, their first major release. And when I was a kid, I'm going to say this was around 1980. My stepfather, John, who recently passed away, we went to a record store, and he had the most amazing stereo system. Taught me a lot about audio as a kid. Anyway, so we go to this record store, and he was always buying these mastered virgin vinyl disc. You know, today they're popular. Back then it was like a really big deal, right? Okay. And he bought Dreamboat Annie, this master disc virgin vinyl version of the album. And I remember, and I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at what he bought. I just bought like Van Halen or, you know, whatever. And and I bust out Dreamboat Annie, and I sit in his audio chair, you know, and I put the headphones on, and I listen to Dreamboat Annie. I ended up making a cassette, you know, of that master disc. And Dreamboat Annie, to this day, stands up to me as one of the greatest albums of all time. And it's just incredible. They recorded that at some little studio in Vancouver, independent record release, you know, and you listen to it, it's just an incredible record. Happy birthday, Nancy Wilson. Our dead guy's birthday today is Jerry Lewis. 1926 to 2017, died at the age of 91. Jerry was known as the King of Comedy and is regarded as one of the most significant American cultural figures of the 20th century. His personal life made him a global figure in pop culture over an 8-decade career. He died at his home in Las Vegas on August 20th, 2017, at the age of 91. Heart issues. On this day in history, 1926, it was a big one. Robert H. Goddard successfully launches the world's first liquid-fueled rocket at Auburn, Massachusetts. The rocket was 10 feet tall. We've all seen the pictures of it, constructed out of thin pipes. I still don't know how that thing flew, and was fueled by liquid oxygen in gasoline on this day in 1926. OTD. Fader fact, Plum Island off the coast of New York, and this is relevant. This is a relevant today, now, Fader fact. Okay? I've talked about Plum Island before, but Plum Island off the coast of New York is owned by the Pentagon. And nobody can go there. You cannot. Why? Well, right now it's being used to run war games for a giant cyber attack on our power grid. That's right. That's what goes on at Plum Island. That's your Fader fact. Tonight, very special guest, Jazz Shaw, stops by for the first time. We're going to be talking about his latest articles and how he got here. Tomorrow is another Fader night with open lines all night long. And right now, I really need to hit this River Moon coffee. Yeah. rivermoonwellness.com. I like my coffee dark. I do. With a dash of Italian sweet cream. rivermoonwellness.com. I saw the tweet. It's thousands of tweets ago now, but somebody tweeted some Fade to Black blend and thank you for doing that. But said, tonight we get to drink coffee with Jimmy. I was like, right on. And I hope you're doing it right now. I want you to do this with me. And tweet it again. Will you tweet it again? I want to see it again. But do this. Because that's what you do. That's what you tweet right out and go, yep, that's what I'm doing. All right. rivermoonwellness.com. Links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. Okay. I love talking. You know what? I ask questions all night long. I'm learning. I'm sitting here. I'm taking notes. I'm going to do that tonight with Jazz Shaw. But here's the thing. I get about 10 minutes a night. That's it. I get about 10 minutes a night to let my mind go, to let you know where I am at. Right? Okay. And my journey through life to where I am today, like right now, the now, has been an interesting one. I mean, like for sure, it's been interesting. I mean, it's at least interesting to me. I don't think it's like write a book interesting and people would be interested in my story. I don't mean it like that. But for me, it's certainly been interesting. And I can say this in the most matter-of-fact fashion that I can. I have always admired journalists, newscasters, the nightly news, Time magazine, talk radio, documentaries, the newspaper, right? Yeah. It's weird. I didn't really have a sports hero. I didn't really have I didn't do any of that. Didn't have a favorite actor or actress growing. I didn't know. I was into 60 Minutes, right? My favorite book growing up, besides The Shining, my favorite book growing up, I had a biography about Howard Hughes. I read that thing like 10 times. What do you do doing something like that at the age of 10? Now, sure, art and music dominated my world. It's what I studied in school. I had a great run at it. I did what I wanted to do, and I enjoyed it. But yeah, there were these two itches I kept scratching. Journalism and UFOs. Now, you could look at those pictures of me with my long flowing hair, and I was 110 pounds with my guitar and spandex. Yeah, you can go look at it. And sure, yeah, right? I was a musician, a wannabe musician. But in my head, it was journalism and UFOs. Back in Indy, probably around 1974, I was in bed listening to my little radio in the middle of the night. I should have been sleeping. I wasn't. I wasn't listening to music. No. I would spin that little tuner until I found someone talking. And one night, I dialed something in, and the host, whoever he was was telling the story about the Illuminati, about this group of people that run the world from the background. Right? Yeah, I'm like 10. Right? And how they have been doing it since the dawn of man. Heady stuff for sure, especially at that age. And I really didn't understand it, but it certainly got my attention. In the morning, I wrote it down. Illuminati. It's actually a pizza place in Chicago. Anyway, so I write it down, Illuminati. I went to the library, found nothing. I didn't ask anybody about it either. I just, kind of kept it to myself, but I never forgot it. The Illuminati. Yeah. While I was in Panama a couple of years later, I mentioned the Illuminati to a friend and told him the story about them running the world. Now, he had never heard of them, and honestly, he wasn't that impressed. But I never forgot the Illuminati. So I returned to the States, and now I'm probably 16 or 17 years old, and I brought them up to a friend of mine's dad, and he shocked me when he replied, "Do you mean the Illuminati?" And I was like, "What?" Yeah. That night we talked about them for hours because now I realized it was true. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And now I had something to go on. I knew how to spell it. I knew the word. And yes, the information was out there. And suddenly, Rush's album 2112 had a whole different meaning for me. And I really started to look at the world a little differently at that point. But and it was things going through my mind like, who do I trust for information? What is real on the nightly news? My beloved Time magazine, was it fake? Right? 60 Minutes, is it real? What about the Indianapolis Star? Was it really going on? Was this really happening? The Illuminati running the world? Seriously, yeah. I'm playing guitar. I'm making a living drawing and art. It's how I paid my bills, but this thing was just consuming me in the background. And one of the most mind-blowing facts for me was, well, who out there is really taking a chance and willing to research, cover, present, write, and speak about these things in any form of the media? Because they weren't giving it to me, and it seemed like the story was out there, and people were talking about it. Now, there have been many chance takers when it comes to truth revealing over the last few thousand years. Galileo, for instance. But anyway, and each one of them could have taken the safer journey, like Galileo. But they chose not to. And that list is really, really, really long. But today, they are here. They are all around us. Those who can do anything with their lives, take the safe road and not get involved with the stuff that can ruin a professional path. And too often, we don't stop and recognize what they have done and continue to do for us and for the truth. And if you think about it, of course, you've got like Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal and Brian Bender and Dr. Robert Schock. You got George Knapp. You got Tucker Carlson, Avi Loeb, Jacques Vallée. You got Chris Mellon, Lou Elizondo, and so many more, right? The list is so long. And even those that are no longer with us, Stanton Friedman, for instance, Jim Mars, right? Lloyd Pye. Tonight we have Jazz Shaw with us, a journalist who could be playing it safe and just cover politics and sports and defense spending, right? Whatever. But he has also chosen to investigate and write about UFOs. It is the historical kiss of death in professional journalism. But not for those who ultimately want to end up on the right side of history. Why? Well, anyone who chooses this world does so for their own reasons. And I have mine, but one thing is for sure. They want to get to the truth. Jazz Shaw is one of those who doesn't answer to the Illuminati. Or maybe he doesn't, it's all just a cover, but after the break, maybe we'll find out. Seriously. Because tonight, Jazz Shaw is stopping by for the first time. We're going to be talking about his latest articles, and he's going to tell us, hopefully, how he got here. Tomorrow is another Fader night with open lines all night long. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer and UNX Networks. Race Hobbs. This is Fade to Black. I will be right back with our guest, Jazz Shaw, right after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the X.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net.
Introducing the Game Changer blend from River Moon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all River Moon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, folks. It's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. GetTheTea.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's GetTheTea.com. GetTheTea.com. The tea that makes you go.
Do you have an interest in the paranormal? Then you'll love the UNXNetwork.com. The X is your streaming audio and video for everything supernatural, strange, and mysterious, like UFOs, Bigfoot, ghosts, and so much more. From hosts like Jimmy Church, Whitley Strieber, Micah Hanks, and Christina Gomez. Visit the unxnetwork.com show page for a complete list of all the paranormal programs you'll find on the X. Be sure to follow us on Twitter for updates at KUNXDB. Follow our Facebook group, UnX Network. Find the podcast on Spotify, iHeart, Audible, and Apple Podcast. It's time. It's new. It's the X.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Jazz Shaw is with us for the first time. That's all right. Tomorrow night's another Fader night with open lines all night long. But tonight, it's all about Jazz. We're going to be talking about his latest articles, including report. The Pentagon is planning to classify all of the UAP Task Force UFO data, and quote, that's the headline. All of that and much more with one of the leading voices in journalism when it comes to the topic of UFOs. Jazz is a U.S. Navy veteran, military radar technician, and a reporter who has been featured at the Debrief, Salem Media Network, National Review, the Washington Examiner, and other print and radio outlets. He has both reported on and experienced inexplicable things in our skies and maintains an interest in the curious nature of our reality. And if you want a full dose of Jazz Shaw, just head straight over to the Debrief. All right. I would like to welcome for the first time, Jazz Shaw. Jazz, how you doing, man? Good evening.
Dude, this is amazing. Thanks for having me on. It's I've been loving your show, and it's great to be here. Thank you.
Well, and thank you, Jazz, and the honor is all mine. But the best part of it is you get the first-time guest disclaimer. You ready?
I'm ready.
Jazz.
I hope I'm ready.
Yeah, Jazz. It's just you and I sitting on my couch having a conversation as friends. And where that conversation starts, it starts. Where it ends. But we're going to end as friends. There you go.
I hope so. Definitely.
I am so curious as to how you got here. How you got here on this show tonight. Because looking at your history and certainly reading your articles and the breadth of the things that you cover, I get a sense that you write about and investigate and research into things that capture your interest, whether it's politics or politics and sports or sports and defense or defense and sport, right? It's just like everything kind of is connected in your world, but you write about the things that interest you. And now it's UFOs. So let's back up for a second. And you're still writing about everything else that pays the bills for sure. But going back through your life, where did this interest in UFOs start? Was this late in life, or did something happen when you were a kid?
No. Well, Jimmy, like many people, I'm way older. I could be your dad, basically. But, I always had an interest in outer space and all that stuff. A lot of people that we know, that we talk to, who cover this, grew up like in the 90s, and they were like watching X-Files and stuff. I grew up in the 60s, and I had a big interest in outer space and, the idea of aliens and things. But back then, we were watching a lot of different media, and I found it all fascinating. It goes all the way back to all the old UFO stories and things like that. It was mostly science fiction. And for most of my life, until I was 61 years old, it was all just hypothetical. It was like science fiction, really fascinating. Is there life out in the universe besides ours? Always thought so. A lot of people did. A lot of great stories. But I never wrote about UFOs, and I wasn't, frankly, to use the correct phrase, I wasn't allowed to write about UFOs until January of 2018. And before that, I covered a lot of other stuff. Yeah, I had an interest, but it was mostly like, well, that looks curious. Is that possible? Like a lot of people, it's like, is there other life in the universe? Seems really likely, right? And then a lot of stuff changed after the December 2017 New York Times article. And I actually got assigned and was allowed to write about the topic as a real science thing. And that really changed everything for me professionally.
Now, why this is a question that I need to point at you directly, because I know that you've thought about it, but you are a professional journalist. This is what you do. And I can talk about this all the time with a guest about the censorship of UFOs in professional journalism over the years. And this is a basic rule in journalism that goes back decades. It's a subject that is not going to be written about or researched at this publication, at this network. That's not what we do. And this is a real thing, isn't it? And I'm sure, just by your statement right there, that you are speaking from experience, that UFOs was something that was untouchable.
Oh, in our group, and I don't say it disparagingly, it was just a fact of life. I write about energy policy. I write about government interaction on any number of things, foreign policy, and nobody wrote about that at our network. And it was only after that December 2017 New York Times article, I actually had to go and ask permission to say, hey, this is in the New York Times. This isn't, some, crazy people seeing, something up in the sky, and this is a real story that involves the government. And it took me, I asked as soon as the article came out. It took a couple of weeks. It was January of the following year.
Right.
When I finally got a response saying, well, okay, maybe we can try this. Go ahead. It involves the government, so it's a valid topic. Let's go ahead and try it, see how it goes. The first article I wrote was in January of 2018, and on our site, it was the highest trafficked article for the next 3 months. And more stories kept coming out, and I was like, yeah, I'd like to write about this. It took about 3 times, and then I got an answer back from our management at Salem Media, and they were like, okay, I guess you're the UFO guy now, but let's go ahead and do that. And I've been doing it ever since, but yeah, there was a big transition for them to say, okay, we're going to have one of our people that's on the front page and goes into our print editions and goes out on our radio network. Can we talk about this? And they said, well, this is working. There's definitely a lot of interest. And that's how it got started. And I became, for better or worse, quote, the UFO guy. And I've been the UFO guy ever since. And I've been asked to write for a number of other outlets when there are, I won't name any names, but there are places that want to cover the topic because there is a lot of interest, but they don't want their own old hardline people writing about it because it's like, well, we don't want to be talking about that. So let's go get the UFO guy to talk about it. So that, I guess that's sort of been my niche, since then.
Did you ever imagine yourself being the cool guy was the UFO guy? Because that you are now, right? You're the cool guy.
Well, in some circles, I guess.
What a brave new world we're in. For that to even be contemplated as a thought, because it's actually a conversation.
No, it's totally a conversation, and I live in this sort of, for lack of a better phrase, a schizophrenic world professionally, because when I write about this subject and when I go on radio shows and talk about this subject, I have to, part of me is still like, well, you're the journalist. We have to go, well, who in the government is saying what, and is this possible? And what motions are being taken, that we're moving forward. Kirsten Gillibrand, the whole UAP Task Force and the new, whatever the bizarre acronym is, Task Force. That's all part of it. And I'm like, and I feel the impulse to write articles and go, well, what are they saying? And what is this person saying? And could this be real? And what's the military saying? But then there's another part of me, and like I hinted earlier, everything for me changed in November of 2020. And there's another part of me in the background when I'm sitting there typing away and writing articles. It's like, I'm the guy who's seen 5 UFOs in the last 15 months, but you can't, in today's journalism, you still can't go out and go, of course this is real, and I don't get to do that.
No, you can't insert yourself into the story.
Right. But the problem is, in the background, I am part of the story.
You are the crazy person that you've been hearing about. That's
yes.
right. And now tell me and tell the audience. Let's go through this. So 61 years in the green zone, right? You haven't crossed the double yellow line yet. 61 years go by, and then you see something. What happened?
Well, I should be clear. I mean, for 61 years, there were a couple of times I saw, maybe some weird lights in the sky, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think everybody does. And you look at that and you're like, well, that's weird, right? But it could be, who knows, in the modern era, drones, it could be, I don't know what a satellite looks like, all that stuff. And then in November of 2020, my wife and I, in 1 week, saw 2 UFOs, not lights in the sky.
Well, I want to hear about both. Tell me about the first one. And before you do, what side of the fence is your wife on?
Oh, she never thought anything about any of this until November of 2020.
Oh, this is great.
And now she's just like, we've tried to film like every one of the sightings we had. One of them was one that she filmed. I mean, she's been there for the whole thing.
Right.
And everything changed for us, so yeah, it was wild. In November of 2020, I walked out one evening on my porch, and my porch faces east.
You're in New York. You're in the state of New York.
Upstate New York, near the Pennsylvania border. Yeah. And I just saw this weird thing in the sky. It wasn't a light. It wasn't a point of light. It wasn't a Starlink satellite. It was a big round thing. I don't know what it was to this day. It had various colors that were shifting and going back and forth. And I went out and I walked across the street to get away from the street lights, and I started filming it. If you go to my YouTube channel, I have like a more than 5-minute long video that I shot of this thing that was just this big round ball, basically. That's what it looked like, with all these different colors. And it was just sort of drifting back and forth above the horizon. It was a little ways away. And you can look at the video, and I was just sitting there talking. I was just like, what the F is that? And I just watched it, and it didn't stop. I eventually gave up and I shut off the video and I went inside. I was like, well, don't know what that is. Later the exact same week, my wife was out walking the dog, our dog. We live near the end of a block, and she was on the street with only one house between us. And she looked up, and I was out on the back deck on our house. And something came over our house. And unlike the other one that was very far away, this was something that it was a dark night, and the video is total crap, by the way, so don't get your hopes up. It was just something that was triangular in shape. And it had all these little weird little shifting lights that moved, and they moved in relation to each other. It's not like they were attached to something, but it was a triangle, and it sailed very slowly, very silently, right over the top of our house. And we both watched it go by, and it just went off into the distance. And that one was the one I think where both of us were like,
holy crap.
Okay,
Yeah.
there's something weird going on here. Yeah.
How big was it?
Hard to say. Don't know how high it was. It was an overcast night. It was low enough to be below the clouds. It could have been a couple thousand feet up. So it was hundreds of feet across.
Wow.
I mean, it was big, And then the other three that we saw starting in June of last year, they were all Tic Tacs, and they were not, and that's the word I use because everybody's been using it.
Mm-hmm.
They were not at night. They were not ambiguous. It was broad daylight in a clear blue sky, and we saw Tic Tac show up. They were just these oval things that were white or of some very light color, and they came out from the west every time, same pattern every time, came from the west heading towards the east, and then stopped. And I have one video on my YouTube channel. You can see it. It's not a great video. Again, they're all crap. But one videographer went and did a rendering of it, and actually got the look of this thing that looked just like a lozenge, and he color corrected it, and it sat there. It was going across west-east, stopped in midair above our house, a little ways over to the north of us, and then slightly turned and rotated, and then it just disappeared. It didn't fly away. It didn't crash. It didn't land. It vanished. It's like you look at the video, there's one frame, it's there, and the next frame, it's a clear blue sky.
Wow.
And we saw that 3 times.
Wow.
And so it's been crazy. So, I mean, that's really impacted my ability to report responsibly about this, because I hear all the discussions and I understand the discussions, but then in the back of my mind, it's like, but also, dude, come on, it's like, there's no explanation for that. Oh, at least I don't have one. So yeah, that's my personal experience. I mean, we've seen 5 so far, 3 different types. The last 3 were all, for lack of a better word, Tic Tacs. And so that's the world I live in now, Jimmy. It's like you've seen that. How do you go back after that?
You don't. And here's the thing for me is that once you have one experience, it doesn't matter what it is for you. It could be the triangle. The Tic Tac is pretty crazy too as well. But once you have that, nobody can take that from you. That's it. Nobody's going to tell you you didn't see it. You saw it. And that's it. Now you need to figure out what is going on. That's all you can do is put one foot in front of the other. That's it. I've chosen that that too in my life. I've seen what I've seen. I don't want to hear it from anybody else, especially somebody out there that's going to tell me it's some kind of psychosis or I imagined it. No, I saw it with somebody. In your case, you saw it with your wife, right? That's it. That's the end of the story, and nobody is going to take that from you or tell you that you didn't see what you saw. It's that simple, isn't it?
Well, it is for you. And when I say you, I mean us, everybody who's been through that.
Right.
But if you work as a journalist, you still have to realize you're talking to an audience with a lot of people that have not had that experience.
Right.
Right. And that's where I get that sort of schizophrenic line that I have to walk, because I have to write articles about things, and it's like, well, now the government's talking about it, and the government's saying, yeah, there's definitely these things, and it's not the Russians, it's not the Chinese, it's not us. We've all been through all these stories. We don't need to rehash them again, but you still have to approach it to talk to an audience that hasn't had that experience. But in the back of your mind, it's like, dude, I was there. I watched it, and does that mean I know what it was? No. People ask me that all the time. It's like, so was it aliens? Jimmy, I've never seen an alien. I've never seen a being. All I saw was some crap that shows up in the sky. Nobody ever tried to talk to me that I'm aware of, nothing like that. But it does change your perspective. It changes it a lot, because it's like, well, the government says they don't know what it is, and I don't know what it is, but it's something, right? And I don't know. It makes the conversation hard. If you're a journalist, you have to go and do responsible reporting. I don't have any proof of any of this. Like I said, you can go to my YouTube channel. You can look. I got a 5-minute video of the first one we saw, that orb-looking thing, but. Yeah, it's weird, but it doesn't really prove anything, and my videos of the Tic Tacs were just crap. It's a cell phone and you're pointing up at the sky. It's not good. But when you're there in person, you see it, but now you have to go write about it, right? And I mean, you're a journalist professionally.
Yep.
It's like, where do you draw the line? How do you say, well, I'm just going to discount anything that you say if you don't believe it? Well, you really can't, because it's kind of an unbelievable thing. And if you'd have talked to me before November of 2020, I was always like, yeah, that's really interesting. That could be something, but you might be crazy.
Right.
Or whatever.
Sure.
And then suddenly I was the person who was like, well, I guess they're saying I might be crazy. Right. How do you bridge that? So I think it's a challenge in journalism.
Well, okay. And there's another, before we get to the break, I wanted to ask you about this. You are a professional journalist. You have that little blue check mark in Twitter. You have a verified account, which signals a level of vettedness out there in the professional world. And you've also chosen to stir the pot in UFO circles. And how is your perspective? You're laughing because you know what I'm talking about. How has your perspective changed in commenting on this subject in the public like that in the forum of Twitter?
Oh, quite a bit. Yeah. It was a dramatic shift in 2021.
I guess what I'm trying to say, Jack, is you don't hold back.
No, I don't hold back on Twitter. But again, going back to the schizophrenic thing I mentioned, I do hold back in my professional writing. I write articles in various places. When I write at our main outlet, which is just a basically conservative, facts up front, news outlet, I always just try to include all the comments from the government, anybody in the government, what's the data, what can we show? And then I write at places like the Debrief, and I've been asked to write it like National Review because they don't want to talk about UFOs and they need a crazy person to come, write an article about it, and I write it for them, and then I'm the guy who saw it, right? So there's sort of does that make sense? There's a break there. In my regular job, I try to write about the who, what, when, where, how, and what's going on, and what's Kirsten Gillibrand saying, and what's this new task force doing, things like that. But then there's a break when I go to other places where do you allow your own personal experience to come into it? And at that point, I'm like, are you kidding me? I've seen it. All right, this is real, So yeah, there's a gap in what I do. it's an uncomfortable thing to explain, but I'm glad you asked. But yeah, there is a difference. I mean, do you talk about your own experience, or do you try to do just hardline reporting?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
There's a big break there.
I had to make that decision myself, and when I came to a point where I had a sighting with a large group of people, and I was going to be on Coast to Coast that week for the weekend, and do I? Because, on Coast, I'm interviewing the guest. It's not about me. It's the guest, right? And it's a big frigging audience. It's an important position to have as a host of a show like that. It's the same as at Fade to Black. But do I cross the line? And I asked myself this, Jazz, which is exactly what you're referring to. I asked myself if Anderson Cooper or Wolf Blitzer or, pick somebody, right? Tucker Carlson, if they saw what I saw at that moment, would they go on the air the next night and talk about it? And no, I'm sure that they wouldn't. It doesn't matter. I just don't think that they would. And that's what made up my mind. I said, you know what? I am going to do this for the community. There's too many people here that saw this. I'm going to go ahead and talk about it. I'm going to cross the line and inject myself into the story, into the narrative. And I'm glad that I did it. It was a journalistic roll of the dice, but I did. Yep. And here's
I wish I had done it sooner. I do, but I didn't have your level of bravery. I was still going out and just trying to write about it like, well, here's what the government's saying. Here's what the Pentagon said.
Right.
Here's what Lou Elizondo said. And I focused on all of that, and it took me a long time to cross the line that you crossed before I came out and actually publicly wrote anything and said, you know what? I was there. I saw it. It happened. It's not fake. And I got a lot of blowback from that.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
But I think people have to do that eventually.
You got to be on the right side of history, man. And that's the choice you have to make. This is Fade to Black. We're going to take our break right here. Tonight, Jazz Shaw is with us. It's going to be one of those nights on this show. I'm very excited. Jazz Shaw is with us for the first time on the Game Changer and UnX networks. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. More with Jazz after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Your 1 million gigawatt paranormal powerhouse, KUNX-DB, BX.
This is Billy Carson with ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Forbidden Knowledge TV has just reached its 1-year anniversary. That's right, 1 year. And as a show of appreciation, we are giving all new subscribers a free 30-day trial of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's 30 days to binge watch thousands of movies, documentaries, conferences, workshops, lectures, yoga classes, meditation courses, and so much more. So log on to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv from your computer or mobile device, or get the Forbidden Knowledge TV app on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon, iTunes, or Google Play today, and use coupon code 30daysfree. That's coupon code 30daysfree on ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Because you never got that pony you always wanted. Damn it. Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer. Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com.
Hi, Race Hobbs with the X. Obviously, if you're listening to this, you have an interest in unexplained phenomena like ghosts, Bigfoot, and UFOs. And by now, you know that we have our own X blog, the UnX newsletter, and the UnX magazine quarterly. But most of you don't know that we have started our very own paranormal conference. And this year, for safety, this 2-day XCon will be virtual, so you can attend from the comfort of your home. XCon presenters include Whitley Strieber, Micah Hanks, Margie Kay and Preston Dennett, Lisa Martin and Wayne Lawrence, Lee Spiegel, Debbie Zagelmeyer, Dan Terry, Kate Grabowski, and Ray Hernandez. There will also be a live paranormal investigation by the Riverside, Iowa Paranormal Team. So come hang out with us in the safety of home as we set out to explain the unexplained Friday, May 13th and Saturday the 14th, 2022. And tickets are on sale now. Go to unxnetwork.com. That's unxnetwork.com.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Race Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Jazz Shaw is with us, completing our first-time guest week here on Fade to Black. Now, let's get straight into things here, Jazz. I want to talk about Chris Mellon. And we'll tie Lou Elizondo into this as well. Their efforts have allowed journalists like yourself to suddenly have access and data at a somewhat official level to use as facts in articles when you're writing. And we can thank their efforts. And, others too, John Greenwald, certainly, with his FOIA work, getting stuff out of the Pentagon. And it's been a pretty good run over the last 4 years because of this information that has been flowing out of Washington, D.C. Are we looking for some type of censorship to happen in the future, and this flow of information may be classified?
Well, absolutely. I just published a piece not too long ago about that. But this is not an easy run. It's not like the whole world changed and suddenly the government's like, oh, by the way, we didn't tell you about any of this, and now we're doing all this UFO stuff. So, yeah, it's changed quite a bit. I think that's been helpful, but there's a constant effort to block these things. And recently, Chris Mellon published an article that, I did some commentary on, that it sounds like even though the new UFO office in Congress has been established, they've turned around and said, well, everything's going to be classified. Even the stuff that wasn't classified before is now going to be classified, at least secret. So we're not going to talk about that. Except for the existence of the office, everything else has to be classified. And that seems like a disastrous decision. And Chris Mellon was very much opposed to it for obvious reasons. So, I don't think the fight's over in any way, shape, or form. I think there are a lot of people, anybody who has ever had to deal with Susan Goff, and if you don't know who Susan Goff is, you probably shouldn't be listening to Jimmy Church. I've been dealing with Susan Goff and corresponding with her for 4 years now, and they don't want to talk about this. They don't want any information going out about it. And they claim national security. Is that a valid claim? Is there a danger? Or, is there a national security threat to letting the public know about any of this? And I get a hopeful sense that the classified briefings that people like Kirsten Gillibrand and Marco Rubio and others have received, and then they've come out and said, we need more information about this. We need to be doing this. They're getting a lot of pushback. And there are people inside of, I hesitate to use the word because it sounds so conspiratorial, but the military industrial complex in the government, which is a very real thing, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want anything disclassified. And I realize it's kind of vague to say they, but we all know who we're talking about. But we do have people in Congress now who are, there's a push going on to get more information put out in classified settings to members of Congress who have to perform their oversight and to the public, really. It's like, well, what's the reason that this is classified? Why couldn't we talk about this? And one of the latest things that Marco Rubio was talking about, which I really appreciated, was it's become obvious through not total leaks because we don't get the whole set of details, but they've been given briefings and they come away from those briefings and they have seen longer videos than the public has seen. That's been made very clear by a number of people, and they come away and they're like, whoa, we need to talk about this, right? But still the insiders who have this information are like, no, we have to classify this. You can't talk about this. And I really like some of the responses we're seeing recently, which run along the lines to kind of paraphrase what some of the people like Gillibrand have been saying. It's like, well, what is it that you're afraid of the public knowing?
Right.
That there were videos that were taken on a cell phone by a pilot during a routine training flight. Why would you not release that? Are we afraid the Russians are going to discover that we have, gasp, cell phones? Oh my God, the Russians know we have cell phones. That doesn't really make any sense. So I'm kind of hopeful that attitude will prevail. And it's like, yeah, if they've got data that would reveal any of our technical capabilities or things we don't want our adversaries to know, sure, you want to keep that, locked up. I'm fine with that. But if somebody saw something weird and filmed it from the cockpit of a fighter jet with their cell phone, and was like, "What's this?" And everybody's looked at it, and they've been like, "No, it's not ours. We're very sure it's not theirs." What's the point of making that secret? Really?
What's the reason for it? And isn't, you can correct me right now, Jazz, if I am wrong in this statement, but isn't it the job of journalists with the very foundation of this country and the freedom of the press to keep a check on our government to make sure there isn't secret stuff going on that the public is unaware of? That's the job of the press, and that is why the freedom of the press is instituted in our Constitution, right? It's our job to pull this information out the best that we can, right? That is, isn't it as fundamental as it gets?
Yeah, and there's a very vague line between the two halves of those types of information. Avril Haines, the DNI, has come out and very recently made statements saying we have a massive overclassification problem. The government classifies everything by, it's reflexive stuff that really should be in the public domain. But if it's even marginally controversial, they classify everything. And Avril Haines has come out and said, yeah, this is a problem. We need to be declassifying things, getting scientists involved, getting the public involved, doing things like that. And wow, there is clearly a large remnant of the old guard inside the military and intelligence communities that are like, no, everything needs to be classified. You don't need to know anything. We don't want to tell you anything, And I hope that's changing. It sounds like it's starting to change. Once again, I'll go back to Kirsten Gillibrand. She's like, well, show us why. Show us why this needs to be classified. And I don't think they have a good answer for that. But it dates back to Roswell and before.
It sure does.
You don't. They don't want to talk about things. And let's be honest, Jimmy. Our government, and I'm a patriot. Trust me, I love America. Our government's done some really dodgy stuff in the past, and they've kept it secret. Look no further than the Tuskegee syphilis experiments, doing drug testing experiments on our troops without telling them. That's all happened. Those are real things. They've done some bad stuff. They do a lot of good stuff. Absolutely. Keep us safe, all that. But there does seem to be a reflexive instinct to anything that's not as basic as how much money we're spending on coffee filters this year. It's like, oh, that should probably be secret. And I don't know, are we approaching, do you think, a point where that's changing and people have the right to use the power of Congress to go forward and say, no, we have a massive overclassification problem, and we need to talk about that. And all this stuff about UAP, that probably falls into that bucket. If it's not the Russians, if it's not the Chinese, if it's not us, what's the justification to say, well, we shouldn't tell the public about this? Because I don't see it. I really don't.
It's kind of like if you were E.T. looking back at Earth, and you found out that the governments of Earth wanted to keep them a secret, right? That wouldn't make any sense. It's like you have some indigenous culture on an island, and the leader meets somebody that pulls up on a yacht, some fisherman, right? Or whatever. Are you going to keep that a secret from the people of the island and just have them think that they are all that there is on planet Earth? Right? It's the same situation. Why? What's the point of keeping that a secret? The one question that we've had since the dawn of man: are we alone in the universe? right? What's the reason for keeping that classified? Now, I'm talking about discoveries of today. There are reasons in the past that would prevent them from revealing, in my estimation, that they've known about this for a long time and that they've been sitting on technology that hasn't been shared with the world. Is that a reason to keep it classified because they don't want to air their dirty laundry? Well, that's a possibility. But if Avi Loeb makes a discovery, does that stay classified? Right? I don't know what how we're going to move forward.
There's two different aspects to that question that you're asking that I've been wrestling with for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it is if we look at the totally terrestrial aspect, it's like, well, have they been hiding stuff that really shouldn't have been hidden, and maybe it might have really benefited mankind, and you sat on it for reasons we don't know? Then you've done something bad. Has money been spent that was not subject to oversight? That people could be in a lot of trouble. That's one question.
Mm-hmm.
The other question, I think, Jimmy, is a little bit more complex. It's like, why would a hypothetical, in my opinion, very probable, other intelligence that's not terrestrial, well, why wouldn't they just come and, make this information known? I keep coming back to the idea that we're a very anthropomorphic species. We tend to put our own motivations and our own reasoning onto anything we encounter. If we are dealing with an intelligence that originated somewhere else entirely, maybe in entirely different conditions, evolved in a very different way, might not even be biological. Some people say it might just be like some super intelligent AI that somebody created somewhere else. Do they have the same motivations we do? Do they care if we know about them? Are they here to reveal themselves to us? Maybe we're just like ants in an anthill, and they're like, oh, do I really care what the ants think? That I always come back to that. It's a question to me that, we're dealing with it in a way of what we want to know, what we think we should know, what we're able to find out. If they're the people that are coming and stomping on the anthill, they might not really give a crap one way or the other, whether or not we know about it or what we think about it, or, what we think about their motives. And they may not have motives we can even understand. And of course, again, this is just opinion. We're just batting it around here. But I don't know for sure that if there is a non-terrestrial intelligence that's, I don't even want to use the phrase engaging with us, that's here and interacting and doing things, do they really care what we think? I mean, I don't know the answer to that question, Jimmy. I mean, they may just be like, who cares? They're not watching Fox News. They might just be like, we're here collecting our data, and whatever you're doing, that's up to you, dude. Do we know for sure that they really care about what we're doing?
Well, every time you go outside and turn on your bug zapper so you can have your cookout in the back patio with your guest over, are you really considering what you're doing to those pests? Right? Right. No, you're not. When you're walking around on a sidewalk, are you concerned that you're stepping on bugs and some baby bug's not going to have their mom come home that night because you just stepped on one on the sidewalk? No, we don't consider those things. It's a very simple way to look at it. I totally agree. And then if we flip it over, though, where the question of, and you go back to the Fermi paradox, which is, okay, so the galaxy, the universe is teeming with life. Well, where is everybody? And we look at what we're doing now with like Perseverance, and we're sending probes to Jupiter and Mars and Venus and what have you, the moon. And that's what we're doing. And if we look at like the von Neumann probe, some self-replicating way to go out and map, right, the galaxy and look at other worlds, isn't that the possible thing that we're having right now with multiple Tic Tac sightings all the time? And the answer would be, well, I think that they are here, and they're here a lot. You may not have a little green man inside of it, but that stuff isn't necessarily coming from Earth, and that would be evidence of an extraterrestrial civilization checking us out, right? Isn't that the proof that we've been asking for all along?
That's absolutely what we want to find out. But again, we want that information. The big missing picture in my portion of the question, I should say, in my opinion, is what's the motivation of the other? If there is an other, and it looks to me like there's an other, but are they here because they want to help us? Are they the Space Brothers? Are they trying to save humanity and eliminate our nuclear weapons because they don't want us to ruin the planet? Or are they scientists that are like, well, look at what these clever monkeys are doing. That's kind of interesting. Let's go take some data. But do you care if the monkeys kill each other off? I mean,
right.
I think it probably feels, and I apologize, it probably feels a little insulting to some people to say, oh, well, we might just be clever monkeys. But if they're that far in advance, we can't travel to other stars yet. We're working on it. We're trying to get there. But if they're already there, if they can travel between the stars, even potentially between the galaxies, and they arrive on a planet like ours, it's like, oh, cool, green, blue world, life forms, interesting. Let's go look at this. How concerned are they about that?
Well, yeah, you want me to tell you why you're right? Because chances are,
right.
Yeah, chances are, if they got, it's a numbers game, but if they got here from another star system, an interstellar situation, then chances are they have seen billions of Earths.
Sure.
Yep. Billions. We're just another number in a catalog.
If life is that prevalent, Jimmy, and I have no proof, obviously, nobody does. I tend to think life is like ubiquitous. Life is just like a virus in the universe. Why would there only be life here, right? And we're a relatively young planetary system compared to some other ones that have been around a lot longer. Look how far we've come. Just look back to when was the first powered flight?
1903.
1903. Up until then, and I still remember having to cover this, when the Wright brothers made their flight, in the next week, there were editorials that were put out in the New York Times, out in San Francisco, saying that it was a hoax. They said it was not possible. Powered flight was at least a century away. It wasn't possible. This was a joke, right? 50-some years later, somebody walked on the moon. We made it that far in that short amount of time. Imagine a civilization somewhere else that got a 1,000-year, 10,000-year, million-year head start on us. We made that jump in 60 years. What have they done? So yeah, we might, and I know it's insulting. I'm not making a racial thing or anything, but could an advanced intelligence really be looking at us as like just clever monkeys? It's like, oh, here's an interesting planet. Look at the monkeys. Oh, they got a rocket and they went to the closest thing orbiting them. Wasn't that nice? And I think we should eliminate our hubris a bit and pull the lens back and say, if we are being visited, and personally, it's only my opinion, I think we are, they might not have the same perspective that we have. They might not be looking at us as being as important as we think we are. We might be the ants.
Yeah, and there isn't another way to look at it than that. But I'll suggest this: if they got here, right, however more advanced that makes them, they got here. They're more advanced than us. So therefore, they would have a situation with artificial intelligence to be able to plug in certain data points about us and this planet, 1903 to, first powered flight to Jimi Hendrix, right? It's a pretty big leap in 60 years. That means from 2022, in another 50 years, they will be interstellar. Now they are going to be out visiting us. And now we need to start to pay attention to this planet because they are not dealing with candle power anymore and gas lights like they were in 1900. Today, they're now interplanetary. They're visiting their own planets. And very soon, they are going to be interstellar and coming in our direction. So I would think that they would at some point have to raise an eyebrow. And maybe that time is now.
If they found us, yeah. I mean, it's a gigantic universe. It's a huge galaxy, You got to go investigate every one of the stars, right? So I don't think it's a given. But if there are races out there that, what are you going to do? You're going to go check out the other stars. You're going to look at the other planets, look at things that are similar to you. There's a whole separate track that a few people I've interviewed have talked about where it's like we're really limiting our search into intelligent species that would be interested because this is where life can be on our planet. For all we know, life lives everywhere. Go look at the stuff that lives on the black smokers in the bottom of the ocean. Pluto could have a whole bunch of life on it. It just wouldn't be life that looks like what we recognize, right? So I think the possibilities are limitless, and I think we could be way ahead of a lot of other life forms, like the next crab you find on the beach. But there's also the possibility that there's things out there that have a huge jump start on us. And, I hate to use the word, we need to be a little more humble. I don't think we're the dominant life form in the universe. I think the odds of that being true are virtually nil. If there's life beyond this planet, there's going to be life that's behind us, but there's going to be life that's ahead of us. And that we should take that into our calculations.
Yeah,
really.
To the infinite, I think is the best way to put it, too. I think that life is to the infinite. Let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, Jazz Shaw. I am your host, Jimmy Church, on the NX and Game Changer Networks. This is Fade to Black. More jazz after this short break. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
You're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the X.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
This is Jimmy Church. Jason Martell's book, Knowledge Apocalypse 10-Year Anniversary Edition, is now available. Most ancient cultures speak of a time when their gods visited them. They never say their gods came from across the ocean or from the mountains. They always came down from the skies. Was ancient man visited by gods or extraterrestrials? We have not been told the full truth about our human past. There was a time when all the ancient cultures lived amongst beings they considered their gods. The search for truth leads us down the path of learning where the ETs might come from and why they are here. To understand some of these advanced topics and learn the truth about human origins, buy the new book from Jason Martell, Knowledge Apocalypse. Now in its 10-year anniversary edition, available on Amazon.com by clicking on the banners over on our site, or simply visit jasonmartell.com. That's jasonmartell.com. Do you want to be an official Fade or Not? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. Fade or Nots. When you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Jazz Shaw is with us. And I'm about to take a little bit of a left turn here with Jazz. Yeah, because I can. It's my show. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Now, Jazz, the other day we were talking on the phone, and we were talking about different UFO cases, and one we're going to discuss here in just a second. And then we started to talk about Chris Mellon and Lou Elizondo and the article and the cover-up and things. And at that moment, I thought it was pretty strange. Lou Elizondo called, right? And, yeah. And I said, hey, Jazz, you want to say hi to Lou? It was weird. And we pulled Lou in on the conversation for a few seconds, and he got to have a quick chat. But that to me is a sign of the universe being connected, because we were just talking about him and Mellon, and that was just bizarre. I don't know what inspired him to pick up the phone, but I thought it was pretty strange. It was fun, but it was strange.
Yeah, well, that was weird. I'd only ever spoken briefly on a panel to Lou once, and when he called in, I mean, is that serendipity? You know, was it something like that? Or is it just that everybody calls Jimmy Church? You know?
Okay. But there was one thing. I'm going to throw both of you under the bus a little bit.
Sure.
Lou took the opportunity to stop the conversation and to thank you for all of your hard work. And that must have made you feel pretty good.
Well, actually, it was kind of embarrassing. I mean, Lou has done so much for this entire discussion, and I'm not. I'm just some guy that's been following it and trying to report on it. And that ties into, like, people ask me sometimes about my position in the quote unquote ufology community. It's like, I'm not a researcher. I'm not somebody that's out there, interviewing people and finding stories that are hidden. I work in an outlet that deals with people that normally don't hear about this, that may or may not care about it, and I see myself as somebody that tries to take these stories that are very real stories,
right,
and bring them to an audience that might have still been living in a world where it's like, oh, well, that's just some crazy stuff. That's like X-Files stuff or whatever, And in the last 4 years, I feel like I've had a significant degree of success in bringing a lot more people into the conversation that weren't in it before. Lou is somebody who was out there breaking the barriers. He was out there, like knocking down the doors and going, oh, hey, we have to talk about this. This is real. This isn't garbage, So I really appreciated that about Lou. But, no, that's not my place in the community. I've never broken a huge story. I mean, I do some research on old cases and bring that forward. But I'm not somebody that's out there like doing the stuff that Chris Mellon is doing, going like, hey, here's what's going on with the Gillibrand Amendment. I find out about that after the fact. So I really appreciate what Lou said. But no, my place in the community is really to just try to take these things that everybody in ufology, people that listen to Jimmy Church, people that are always in tune, I try to take those stories and bring them to people who normally care about, oh, I want the news about, what's the inflation index this week, things like that, and go, hey, here's this other story. And that could be really important to humanity. And man, I can't tell you over the last 4 years, the number of people that we've gotten feedback from and have really driven, traffic and interest for us. It's like, oh, wait a minute, that's not just X-Files. This is a real thing that's happening, and the government's interested in it, And I think Lou has been one of the great leaders in that, and I appreciate what Lou said, but I think I'm a bit player in all this, and Lou has been one of the great drivers. So
well, and at some point you got to just throw caution to the wind, and just go, what, this is my life's choice. I'm going to do this, and he has certainly chosen to do that. Now, going back to what you just said, though, that you don't look at yourself as breaking the story. You and I, in our conversation, we were talking about. You told me about this case, this incident that happened many years ago, and we got into it. And you started to lay out how you put the pieces. That is great journalism. How you were able to just take a look at this. There was other things that led you, the breadcrumbs, and the next thing you know, you've got yourself a pretty interesting situation here that you're writing about. The story itself was published yesterday over at the Debrief. Now, I have put it up in social media. If you go over to my Twitter page at JChurchRadio, or go to the Sandbox hashtag F2B, you will see it right there. Now, what is interesting about this case, just the headline itself, right? Was this unreported fire plane, which is a P-51 Mustang, crash, was this fighter plane crash UFO related? Okay, so that's the headline. Now let's back up. How did you stumble upon this? What triggered first?
Well, we were doing research at the Debrief about the 1948 Thomas Mantell crash, and that was undisputedly, it's very well documented. A fighter pilot in charge of a group of planes was diverted in Kentucky because a whole bunch of people had reported seeing this really huge unidentified flying object. It's a UFO. Nobody knows what it was, right? And they got diverted to go investigate it. And Thomas Mantell went and flew up to a relatively high altitude to go try to check it out. And the next thing anybody knew, the plane crashed and the pilot died. And was that pilot error, plane failure? Was it involved with the UFO? The UFO was reported in dozens of places. And then when we were investigating it, there was a document that showed that a guy named Dr. Snyder from the FAA, at the time it was called the Federal Aviation Agency, had been requesting all the data in 1964 about this. And he included a reason saying, because we're looking at another crash that was almost identical in circumstances.
So to be clear for everybody, Dr. Snyder was asking for information about the Thomas Mantell crash in Kentucky that happened 17 years prior.
Right. And he wanted that information because he was compiling a lot of data about crashes of military aircraft. But when he was asking so much information about the Mantell crash and said, oh, I've got another case that is just basically identical, I was like, well, that's weird.
Yeah, what does that mean?
What's up with that? Is this guy chasing UFOs or being attacked or something? And so we launched an investigation, and it took months, but it didn't turn out to be at least clearly attached to a UFO, but it was a really weird crash. And this was a civilian pilot who had purchased a former Canadian P-51 and modified it in a probably very dangerous way and put his family in there. And so he, his wife, and their 3 kids died in a crash in Oregon. And that's what Dr. Snyder was investigating. And, well, okay, the guy crashed. There was a storm. On the surface, it looked, well, maybe it was tragic accident. When you look at the details, the government reports didn't match anything that was reported in the media. Nothing.
Like what? What was some of the first clues?
It was initially reported by Snyder that, just like Mantell, he had flown up, and the guy's name was John Spock. He had flown up too high, 20,000 feet, had no oxygen equipment, succumbed to hypoxia, lack of oxygen, and went into a nosedive. And the plane has been reported in a few cases. If you go into a nosedive and you go too fast, it exceeds the structural limits of the aircraft and it breaks up. But then we went and found the witness reports and the NTSB report where 5 different people said they saw the plane flying straight and level below cloud cover around 300 feet. And then it exploded. It's really different than the government explanation. So what happened there? I mean, okay, maybe the guy passed out and the plane went into a nosedive. But if he was able to recover and then level out. And then suddenly the plane explodes and just blows up over some rural area. It definitely happened. We found all the records. The plane did definitely crash. What happened to it? The official government account does not match what was reported when Snyder, wrote his summary of it, and he gave a number of public, appearances and talked about it, and none of it matches up. And there were people that said the plane had the landing gear down, like the pilot was attempting to land. Why would the plane just blow up at that point if it survived a dive from 20,000 feet? Nothing matches. And I don't know. We still have questions. But now we don't have any definitive evidence that there was any sort of maybe UFO thing. But wow, it looks like a cover-up.
Now, what's the UFO connection for you?
Well, for me, it was Snyder's keen interest in the Mantell crash, where that was definitely a UFO event. There's no question. Everybody agrees. There were sightings in 3 states about some huge vehicle that nobody could identify. And the people at Fort Knox, which is where the airfield was, they diverted Mantell's flight and said, go check this out. And he got sent up. The other pilots with him turned back. And the next thing anybody knew, the plane crashed. The guy was dead. Plane just exploded, And it was written off as, well, the pilot succumbed to hypoxia, went into a nosedive, plane broke up. It was a horrible crash. It was a terrible thing. And when he wrote numerous letters to everybody asking about this Oregon crash, saying, we're investigating another crash that is, and he used the phrase, almost identical in circumstances. Was he talking about a plane, about a pilot that lost control? Or was he talking about some weird interaction?
Did he see a UFO? Was he chasing a UFO?
Or
was there any radio?
Yeah, there was. And that's the other thing that was really weird. There was radio transmissions that were recorded. And they were talking to the guy when he was ascending, trying to get over the storm. There was a storm, certainly true. And then they lost contact, but then they had contact saying that he was trying to angle towards a landing. He was trying to get to a local airbase where he could land. And that matches one of the witnesses saying they saw the landing gear down.
Right.
So why did the plane explode? What happened? We don't know. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's not just congested. It was just such a strange case. And after all the questions that arose over the Thomas Mantell crash, I look at this one and I go, how are the reports so different? The official NTSB report shows that the plane survived. If it did go into a nosedive, it survived to go and be flying straight and level and then exploded. Why? And the government has no records of that to explain why would a plane that did that explode at that point. It's a curious case, Jimmy.
Yeah, it is.
I'm not saying we have evidence there was a UFO involved or anything, but the records do not match the reported information. And I think it's worth another look.
Are we in a different world today? Is this evidence of where that the government, up until very recently, was very comfortable in controlling the narrative and controlling the flow of information, how things went out to the press and what was released to the public. It's a very convenient thing to say that there was no internet back then. Well, of course there wasn't. We get that. But the government has their method of operation, right? And they are this is evidence of how they definitely were able to control the narrative. And today we have access to information, and we can go back, like you, and go back and look at this, but we can also look at modern stuff today. Whether it's the Nimitz or the Roosevelt or anything else, we have FlightAware. We can look at radar data. We can track planes. We can track satellites. As civilians, we have instant access to information. The government isn't in control anymore, are they?
I don't think so. There's a ton of things people see. And now we have, as you say, instant access. I have seen stuff myself in the sky. I have had people call me because I became the UFO guy. It's like, oh, I saw these weird lights. And sometimes it turns out to be Starlink, right? And sometimes it is. But a lot of other times it's not. So I think we are in a new era where people can ask questions and they can say, well, here's all these reports. And that helps us, Jimmy, to go back and look at the old cases like this one and go, oh, well, here's your official explanation, but that doesn't match these other things. And I think this case that you were talking about that I wrote about, that's one of the ones we can go back and look and go, really? You came up with an official explanation. You gave it to everybody. It's been published everywhere. I had numerous links to government explanations saying, okay, that's what happened. But it doesn't really make sense. And when you pair that up with what we're seeing today, how much of that's true? I mean, are they lying about it? I don't want to be the conspiratory, guy talking about this, but you can go all the way back to Roswell. The government covers stuff up. We don't know what they're covering up. I mean, Roswell was a cover-up. I'll just tell you. We don't know what they were covering up. Were they covering up an alien thing? Were they covering up a secret program they didn't want to tell us about? We don't know. But they definitely lied. The government lies all the time. And I don't think we should be afraid to say that. We've been lied to many, many, many times. Now, if you're interested in this topic, I think we are in an era where we're entitled to go and say, okay, let's see the records. What actually happened? What did you find out? What did you report? What was true? What wasn't true? Right? That's where I am today, Jimmy. I'm just like, I know the government lies. Sometimes they might even have justification for lying because they're covering up things that could endanger national security. But they lie about a lot of other crap, So I think that's where we are today. I think the public is more empowered right now than they've ever been before to go look at things happening today, all the stuff with Lou Elizondo, ATIP, all that, and even the old stuff, going all the way back to Roswell, and go, really? What were you telling us, and why would you say that if it looks like it clearly isn't true? And that's where I am now. I don't think we have a definitive answer, but I think it's clear we've been lied to a lot. Why? I don't know yet.
Yeah, we got 10 different explanations officially from the government on Roswell.
Oh yeah,
10
at least.
At least. But here's something that I've thought about a lot. I want your opinion. You write a lot about politics and military and defense spending and the military-industrial complex. It's one of those things that you do. And if we suppose for a second that the tic-tac is ours. U.S. technology, secret government program. This is our tech. Is that something that we would keep a secret, or wouldn't we show the world that kind of technology and the dominance that we possess over everything else? I don't think that's something that we haven't seen a demonstration of the Tic Tac anywhere. We haven't seen it in Syria, right? There hasn't been a demonstration of it. And would we, if it was our tech, wouldn't we demonstrate it? Wouldn't we show that off?
Well, that's a great question. I think it goes back a lot further than that. I mean, the tech that we're seeing with the Tic Tacs, that would have to go back to pretty much the 1940s, because we had reports of stuff with the Foo Fighters and all that. Would we have never unveiled that? Well,
right. But
would we have never used it?
Right.
When we were in the middle of a conflict? You know, that doesn't make any sense to me, Jimmy. I mean, you keep stuff secret. You know, we had the stealth planes. We were developing them. They were at Area 51. Everybody knows about it, you know. But they eventually brought them out. And we were over in Iraq, and we were like, oh, here's our stealth planes. Screw you.
Right.
You know, and we just went and, nailed them. And that was only a period of like 15 years or so when it was being developed. We've had anti-gravity for 70 years, and nobody ever rolled it out and was like, whoa, you're screwed. Bang.
Right.
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 No, I'm sorry. I'm not buying it, man.
I'm not buying it either. It's a possibility. Anything is possible.
Sure.
Anything is possible. But we went through the Vietnam War. We went through the Iraq War, Afghanistan, Syria, and no demonstration of Tic Tac anti-grav technology that I know of.
Let's go back to World War II for a minute. A lot of people have theories that it was actually the Nazis that developed this anti-gravity technology, and they had the bell, and all that. It's like, okay, so the Nazis had anti-gravity technology, and they had all this. How did you lose the war? How did you get beaten if you had all of this? I don't. It sounds kind of blunt to say that, but really, if you want to accuse the Nazis of having had that, it's like, well, why did you lose World War II? You had anti-gravity. You should have just wiped us out, right? And I think that still applies today.
Let's take our break right here. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Jazz Shaw is with us. First-time guest, first-time conversation, and it is an amazing one. On the Game Changer and UnX Networks, I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Your 1 million gigawatt paranormal powerhouse, KUNX-DB, The X.
Are you ready to read about true paranormal events? UnX Media publishes non-fiction books about UFOs, ghosts and haunted places, time anomalies, cryptid creatures, and more. Just like KUNX-DB Radio, it's all about unexplained phenomena. Visit www.unxmedia.com to see our list of great book titles by Debbie Ziegelmeyer, Gene Walker, Devin Listrom, Wayne Lawrence, Bill Spicer, and yours truly, Margie Kay. That's unxmedia.com.
Why is it we're not very good with our health regimen until it's too late? We don't put oil in the car until the engine blows up. When the body's out of balance, your health is not so good. Give your body some love. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Try our Life Change Tea, which cleanses you from harmful intruders. A clean colon is one of the ways to bring the body in balance. We also carry organic supplements to help you get where you need to go. So do your body a favor. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. You can even visit our sales page to save some dough. Does anybody call money dough anymore? Anyway, if you're looking for short, helpful health tips, go to YouTube and punch in Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. So, log on to getthetea.com, shop, get balanced, then learn some cool tips at Health Matters Now. You'll be glad you did. That's getthetea.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from River Moon. Just click on the River Moon coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact.
When you're in the house for longer periods of time, you can see them flying or running across the floor. Ooh, yuck. They're unhealthy, gross, and disgusting. Bugs. I loathe bugs. We keep a clean home, but occasionally bugs show up. Well, I found something that is tougher than bugs. Orange Guard. On contact, it kills hidden bugs, including ants, roaches, and fleas. Plus, Orange Guard is a residual repellent. All of the ingredients of Orange Guard are on the FDA generally recognized as safe list. Orange Guard may be used around food, humans, and pets. It comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Orange Guard. Available at orangeguard.com, Whole Foods, and Ace Hardware.
Gold loves chaos, uncertainty, and disarray. History shows us what gold does when people aren't sure about the government, the stock market, their jobs, or their retirement savings. Our national debt is skyrocketing. Gold and other precious metals are a defense measure against inflation and a stock market that might take years to recover. So what can you do right now to protect yourself? Call United Gold Group. We offer gold and other precious metals delivered securely within 72 hours. Are you worried about the stock market? We can also help you set up a real gold or silver IRA or a 401k. Safe and secure. United Gold Group makes gold ownership affordable. Call now and get up to $2,500 in free gold or silver with a qualified IRA. Call 800-753-8534. That's 800-753-8534 or visit unitedgoldgroup.com.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Jazz Shaw is with us. What a great conversation. And I'm learning a lot tonight. And I want to push things a little bit further with you, Jazz. I'm going to ask you a direct question. When was the last time you had correspondence with Susan Goff, spokesperson for the Pentagon? Oh, you're not coming through. Unmute. You've got something muted.
Oh, yep.
There.
Sorry. My bad. I was.
It's okay. It's okay.
About 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
And can I ask you what that was about? And the reason why I'm asking, do you feel that our days are numbered with her making public announcements when it comes to UAP?
No, I don't think our days are numbered about that at all. I think she's totally in control of this. Nobody has shown any inclination to, check that, as far as I can tell. I can. God, can I say that publicly? I had a request that I sent that involved the UAP topic. I sent it to an agency that was entirely outside of Susan Goff's area, and I did the usual request. Instead of getting a response from the agency that I sent the request to for a FOIA, I got a response directly from Susan Goff. I didn't send it to her agency. I sent it to an entirely different agency. They had taken my FOIA request, and I don't know there's even a legal basis for this. They sent it to her. She responded to me directly when I wasn't even asking about her division. Everything gets directed to her, and she responds. And the responses are not generally, shall we say, very informative. But we've had a relationship for a while, and I talk to her, and I publish things that I've gotten from her. You can go look at my background. I've published a lot of things that she gave me statements on. I wasn't always happy with them, but she's the one who answers. But I think this is an example of where the FOIA process has been kind of subverted, because you should be able to go to a different Air Force. The example I have, I sent a request to Wright-Patterson, a FOIA request. It's like, oh, here's this set of documents that we saw, and we'd like to hear more about this. What do you have? And instead of getting a response from my FOIA request from Wright-Patterson, I got a response from Susan Goff. And that's not even her area. All of the requests that have anything to do with UAP get channeled over to Susan Goff, and they get then responded to. And the responses are not always, in my opinion, that's just an opinion, not really transparent. So, yeah, we've had a relationship. I've had some very positive, conversations with Susan Goff, but she controls everything that's going on in terms of discussing the UAP topic. It's all been turned over to her.
Is the infighting that you see inside of the UFO community a microcosm of just about every other area out there? The same infighting goes on inside of the Pentagon. It's probably going on over at Harvard with Avi Loeb. It goes on inside of the science community, the physics community, debating these issues back and forth. Is this just a commonality between everything?
Man, I'd love to say yes. We don't know. We really don't. A lot of this information is so closeted, and the government channels everything into a very tight, narrow, I don't even know what the word is. They have the information. Part of it might be legitimately, maybe this should be classified, but everything is passed through Susan Goff. She's the only one who gets to comment. Everything, if you send a UAP related request to the Air Force, if you send it to the Department of Energy,
DNI, right?
It goes over to her,
right?
And she's the one who answers, and the answers are very vague, if you get an answer at all. So yeah, we've had conversations, and I'm not happy with the responses. So I don't know what else to say about that. We're not getting a lot of transparency. So
when we look at the Gillibrand Amendment, and which is now part of legislation, it's part of the budget, it's been signed off now. We're moving forward. There are some very specific things in there that, without, I'm not a politician or a legal expert, but now in some sorts of it's become law. So there are some requirements in there, and one of them is a semi-annual public report. There's an annual classified report. Now, some of those terms have been changed, that there may be 4 reports a year, a classified version, a final report at the end of the year, a semi-annual public version of this report. But who is going to do the interagency policing to assemble the data from the branches of the military and the 16 or 19 intelligence agencies that are also compiling information?
That's what we don't know. That's what we need to find out. You're pinging on exactly the right question. There's supposed to be reports, public reports, other reports that are classified that are only going to be presented to the Congress. But who's controlling that? We don't know that. And the people that have asked the questions have gotten really nothing in response. There are going to be reports, but the article that you referenced a little while ago, everything is supposed to be classified now. They're moving to make everything secret. So are we going to get any sort of a leak or anything from Congress when they see the classified reports?
Right.
Or is it just going to be back down the black chimney, and we don't find out? I don't think we have the answer to that, Jimmy. I really don't.
Here's my Pandora's box. I'm wondering if it's the same for you, that the UAP Task Force report, June 25th of last year, is that going to be as good as it gets? As bad as that was for us, right? Is that going to be as good as it gets? And then from here on out, we're not going to get anything close to what was in that report, which, quite frankly, didn't have much.
If the Pentagon gets what they want, I would say the answer is yes. That's what we're going to get. I'm hoping that's not the case. I know that Senator Gillibrand has been pushing to, get more transparency and get more answers. But I don't know how much leverage we have. We need somebody at a very high level to say, no, you can't just keep locking all this up. We don't have that yet. We definitely don't. And I don't know if there is any leverage to say, oh, all this stuff we have, the big thing is like the longer videos the Congress people have seen.
Mm-hmm.
Should those be released? Well, my answer obviously is yes. But do we have any leverage? Can they just say, oh, I'm sorry, could be national security, whatever, I think the possibility exists that they're just going to lock everything up.
Do you think are they hoping that this issue is going to go away? Right? Where we stop with the pressure and that it just magically goes away and they don't have to deal with this.
We're talking opinion, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what they want. That's what the Pentagon wants. That's what Susan Goff wants. They want it to go away. They want people to stop asking. They want to keep this locked up. That's my opinion. but I think we can get past it. I think we do have people like Marco Rubio and Kirsten Gillibrand, who want to have an evaluation of the data and say how much of this is national security and how much of this is a real concern for the public, that we should have a discussion about this. And I hope that happens, Jimmy. I really do. I'm not entirely confident it will. I really think we have the Pentagon and everybody inside of that structure who has been just taking for granted for so long. It's like, well, if we say it's secret, it's secret.
Right.
And
yeah.
I don't know if we crossed that barrier yet, Jimmy. I think they may be able to just hornswoggle everybody and go, nope, that's what we're doing.
Were you surprised with John Greenwald's reveal 2 days ago that the Barack Obama library has over 3,000, close to 4,000 documents that reference ATIP and UAP?
No, I wasn't surprised at all. I had a request along similar lines to another library, and there are documents out there that nobody has seen yet. The question is, how many of them got out when a FOIA request was put in?
Right.
And John is a friend of mine. He's done amazing work. So will we see it? I'm worried that the fact that John submitted the request and got a response saying, oh, we've got all these documents, there's a bunch of people out there in the government that are like, holy crap, was that in the library? And there's a lot of shuffling going on right now.
There was a secondary reply. I think John put it out there today. It might have been yesterday. It's all happening so fast that even if they approved the request, it would take 16 years until he got the documents.
Yeah, they do that a lot. There was another article recently that I wrote that dealt with the FBI. Some of your listeners will already be aware of this. The FBI had gone and apparently dug up a bunch of Civil War gold in Pennsylvania. And when somebody sent a FOIA request, they repeatedly tried to, thwart FOIA. And then they said, okay, well, yeah, we have documents, but it's going to take years to go through this, so we can't tell you about it. So, yeah, I think there is a government history of saying, oh, well, you might have caught us doing something bad, but we're going to need time to go through this. That's what we're dealing with. The Civil War gold thing with the FBI, it's just one of the more blatant examples. But the government's been doing this for a long time, Jimmy, and they're really good at it. And we only have limited resources to go, hey, that's not right. And the government gets years to go, oh, isn't it right? I mean, we keep going through the same cycle over and over again.
Right. No, that's exactly right. And here's another example of part of. I don't want to put words in John's mouth or the Obama library, but so I'm going to paraphrase a little bit. But I think John said, hey, well, how about can I review the documents myself? Right? Can I go and look at them myself? Because I think they said they didn't have the manpower, the resources to go through this. Somehow they came up with the number 3,800 or whatever it was. So they know the amount. But even if we offered them a staff, right, to go in and look at the documents and review them and make copies, they wouldn't allow that to happen as well. And this 16-year mention was the reply, and which goes back to your point, right? They are so used to saying, well, you know what? It is what it is. You got to wait. And we have to take that.
Well, you're talking about, going back to the article we were just talking about, I went and made multiple requests about the Oregon crash. I got repeatedly answered, there's no documents. Sorry, we don't have anything. Or it's not applicable to us. When I got the documents from the university in Arizona that had all of them, they were not redacted. There was thousands of them. I got 170 something that were directly relevant. None of it redacted. And they were all just sitting out there. But when you ask the government to show you that, they're like, either we don't have it, or no, that can't be revealed. And in this case, that's why I liked that crash investigation case so much, because it was shown that the government obviously had all of those documents. And I got FOIA requests. I've already published them. You've already linked. We can talk about it. They said, no, we don't have any of that, or we can't talk about that. But the guy who did the work, his family had donated all of his documents to a university. They were all out there, not redacted. They were right there. You could see them. You could read them, But the government is still going, oh, no, we don't know anything about that. Who's lying?
Yeah, and I bet you a dime to a dollar, those Obama documents are not redacted.
Probably not.
Probably not. And I wanted to ask you this before we wrap up tonight. When we have what we have going on at the same time, and you're aware of all of this, of course, we have Avi Loeb of the Galileo Project. He's pushing buttons. He's doing his thing. We have the James Webb Telescope out there now that is seriously looking for atmospheres and life on other worlds. We have science, we have physics, we have our community, and then, of course, we have Capitol Hill, and we've also got pilot testimony and the Department of Defense. All of this is happening at the same time. Is this a coincidence, or is there a reason for all of this to be going on at the exact same time? Are we really moving towards disclosure?
Oh, man, that's the big question, isn't it? Jimmy, I don't know. I think there's a big disconnect between what the public wants, what they're demanding, and what the government's willing to do. I think we are at a moment where these questions are finally being asked of people who possibly, keyword, possibly, might have to come up and answer the questions, but we're still facing an entrenched infrastructure that doesn't want to talk about it. So, are we closer to getting answers? Yeah, I would say yes. We're closer than we've been in my lifetime, and I'm pretty old. We're definitely closer. Are we close? Are we at a point where we have the leverage? When I say we, the public,
right,
has the leverage to say, oh, now you have to give us the information. I have very little confidence in that. I don't think we're anywhere near being to the point where the public is able to say, hey, you should tell us what's going on. This is important. And the government still has a lot of outs where they can just say, sorry, we've been looking into this, but it's national security. It's important, things like that. And again, that's an opinion. That's not a fact. In my opinion, is that we're not that much closer. They still have a lot of room to hide. And I think there's a great incentive for the government to hide a lot of this information, either because, well, we don't want you to know about it, most likely, but also, well, if we told you what we've been hiding, we'd be in a lot of trouble, also pretty likely. But that's my take. Again, not proven.
It's not a question of if, it's a question of when a Tic Tac crashes in a Walmart parking lot, right? And you've got live streaming, and you've got video, and you've got Crazy Town. It's something like that is inevitably going to happen sooner or later, and I just think that the government is trying to get out in front of things right now. And really quick, I just want to say you have the coolest cat I have ever experienced in my life. That cat just strolled in, walked past this a couple hours ago, strolled past the camera, stood in front of the camera, went back, curled up on the couch, and has not moved in 2 hours. Just kicking it.
That's Merlin. So, yeah, Merlin's great.
Yeah, Merlin's awesome, man. You just disturbed him. Why his head's gonna? Not his head's back. Okay, he's back. He's back.
Oh no, he's always crashing. I appreciate that. Always like to have screen time for Merlin. As far as what you're saying, Jimmy, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't think we have pried open the bars of secrecy yet. I do not think that. I think there's a lot of people who want it. There's people in Congress who want it. There's a lot of people working for this. I don't think we're there yet. I really think that the barriers to breaking down secrecy, wow, they are huge. There's incredible legal boundaries. We don't know, man. I don't think I'm sorry, I don't want to be disappointing to everybody. I don't think we're close to breaking down the barriers yet. I really.
Yeah. You may be right, but we can't stop the pressure. What are you working on now before we say goodnight? What's your next piece?
My next piece is probably a lot more boring, but we are looking into one more crash that happened in the 1950s that may have been involved with UAP. I still have a number of FOIA requests out on that. It happened in New York State, as a matter of fact, and we'll see if we find anything out. So I'll let everybody know.
Be safe and be well, Jazz. Awesome first-time conversation with you, my friend. Give my best to Merlin, and thank your wife for getting this the technical snafu done tonight. I'll talk to you.
She's a big fan of yours now, so.
She's the best. Thank you so much, Jazz Shaw. Everybody head over to the debrief.org. Everything is right there for Jazz. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer and UnX Networks. This is Fade to Black. I'm going to take a quick break. I'll be right back. Stay with us.
Listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the X.
Hey, what up, y'all? Sugar Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
This is Jimmy Church. Jason Martell's book, Knowledge Apocalypse 10-Year Anniversary Edition, is now available. Most ancient cultures speak of a time when their gods visited them. They never say their gods came from across the ocean or from the mountains. They always came down from the skies. Was ancient man visited by gods or extraterrestrials? We have not been told the full truth about our human past. There was a time when all the ancient cultures lived amongst beings they considered their gods. The search for truth leads us down the path of learning where the ETs might come from and why they are here. To understand some of these advanced topics and learn the truth about human origins, buy the new book from Jason Martell, Knowledge Apocalypse, now in its 10-year anniversary edition, available on Amazon.com by clicking on the banners over on our site, or simply visit JasonMartell.com. That's JasonMartell.com. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at jimmychurchradio.com.
Are you ready to read about true paranormal events? Unex Media publishes nonfiction books about UFOs, ghosts and haunted places, time anomalies, cryptid creatures, and more. Just like KUNXDB Radio, it's all about unexplained phenomena. Visit www.unxmedia.com to see our list of great book titles by Debbie Ziegelmeyer, Gene Walker, Devin Listrom, Wayne Lawrence, Bill Spicer, and yours truly, Margie Kay. That's unxmedia.com.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today.
This is Billy Carson with ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Forbidden Knowledge TV has just reached its 1-year anniversary. That's right, 1 year. And as a show of appreciation, we are giving all new subscribers a free 30-day trial of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's 30 days to binge watch thousands of movies, documentaries, conferences, workshops, lectures, yoga classes, meditation courses, and so much more. So log on to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv from your computer or mobile device, or get the Forbidden Knowledge TV app on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon, iTunes, or Google Play today, and use coupon code 30daysfree. That's coupon code 30 days free on ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
This is Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JamieChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Love first-time guests week here on Fade to Black. I want to thank Jazz Shaw for coming in tonight. And it was just a great conversation. Lots to unpack, too. And, I say that after every guest because, we just had a 2-hour conversation. And I'm sitting here thinking about everything that was talked about. And here's if I have a couple of comments, which some of this goes back to what I was talking about at the beginning of the show with journalists out there that are willing to seek the truth and just keep the pressure on and not to let up. And which goes back to a couple of Jazz's comments, and specifically about Susan Goff. And I asked Jazz, I opened up the phone lines. I'll see if I can get to a couple of calls, 747-228-2051. I asked Jazz the last time that he had correspondence with Susan Goff, and he said a couple of weeks ago. And one of the reasons why I brought this up is that it seems, and if you go back and you think about what's gone down in the last 4 years, almost 5. We're in 2022. That was December 2017, where Susan Goff, and there were other people speaking too, but she was the main person on this, was forced into making public statements like weekly, and in some cases daily. And through the efforts of many, not only, Jazz Shaw, but of course, John Greenwald, pushing, and others, pushing this because everybody had questions. And certainly we now knew at that time that something was going on, specifically ATIP, and there were the questions about Lou Elizondo and the United States Navy and who knew what, and of course the Nimitz and later the Roosevelt, something in my throat. And this was moving at a very, 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 very fast pace. Let me say, Susan Goff hasn't said anything in a while. And the last real flood of stuff was early last year, leading up into the summer, centered around Lou Elizondo, his emails, investigations that were going on, and now we had the ODNI involved, and so anyway, but general silence since then, and this is why when I pointed this straight at Jazz. Why it is so important for journalists to keep the pressure on. Got to keep the pressure on. We cannot get complacent. Where before, and trust me on this, Susan Goff was not just willy-nilly just giving out information and just stepping up and talking about UAPs and videos and think, no, that's because the pressure was on and she had to respond to it. That's why all of that went down. There wasn't just this freedom of information coming out of the Pentagon and out to the world about UFOs and UAPs and ET. No, that's not the case. That came from pressure. And going back to the very fundamental, which is why I spoke about all of this earlier, the very fundamental principles of this country and the establishment, freedom of the press, the systems and balances, and the checks that go back with the freedom of the press that go right back on our elected officials. And to make sure that is a monitoring process that was put into place to make sure that the citizens of this country stayed informed and there were no secrets that were going on. Now, obviously, things have changed, but that is what was installed. And so that gives journalists the ability to go and ask questions at a press conference, to publish articles, to ask questions, and to investigate and see what is actually going on. That's the job of the press, one of the jobs of the press, and the freedoms that were given to them to do this. For Jazz Shaw to inquire, for John Greenwald to inquire, and others, and that includes, Ralph Blumenthal or the New York Times or CNN or Fox or this program, to be able to do that, right? And to keep the pressure on. Why has that stopped? And I have asked Jazz directly, is this clamped down now? Is the joyride over? Right? Because it was coming out fast, it was coming out hard. It was crazy things. Just one day after another. I can't tell you how many shows here on Fade to Black and certainly over at Coast to Coast during that period where I was just more breaking news. Susan Goff said today, this just happened. This is going on. And we haven't had that lately. Jazz says it's too difficult. They don't want this to happen. They don't. They really don't. You know why it happened? It happened because of Paco's website and Dave Fravor's article and talking about the Nimitz incident. And that in turn, right? That in turn got picked up by TTSA. TTSA gets launched. And Dave Fravor and everybody else, all of that came unraveled. The thread was there. It got pulled. It all came out. The genesis of everything would probably go back to Paco. But anyway, I digress. Let me stay focused. So with everything that came out about an incident that happened in 2004, if Paco didn't happen, if Fravor wasn't revealed, would we have ever known about the Tic Tac? Would we have known? And that goes with every pilot, every radar operator, everybody on all of the ships and on the Princeton and on the Nimitz and the Roosevelt, Underwood, all of this. Would we have known about any of it? The Pentagon wouldn't have told us. They didn't tell us since 2004. And they sat on that. Now, are we now past the glory days? And this is where I say, and I really mean this, we need journalists. We need effective pressure applied to the Pentagon and to Capitol Hill. It's got to stay consistent. We cannot get complacent, not only as a UFO community, but as a planet. We can't get complacent on this issue. And especially, I am surprised. I was going to talk more about this tomorrow. I'll talk about it now. I was surprised to see this last for 4 or 5 years. If you think about everything else in the news cycle that has gone through in the last 4 or 5 years, these huge things, big things have gone down in the last 4 years. Even bigger things in the last 2 years. But we worked past all of them, and they have disappeared in the news cycle. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of examples of things that have done that. The UAP issue has stayed there for 4, going on 5 years. So much so that, again, going back to Gillibrand and the recent budget and what is happening with this new task force, and we keep mentioning Rubio, but that is important in the Senate Intelligence Committee, that this issue is still there and it is still public. That's because we've kept the pressure on. We can't get complacent. This is not the time for us to sit on our hands and go, okay, things have moved far along, so far along that we can. It's going to work itself out. We can just go on cruise control. We can go on autopilot. No, that is not the case. This is the point I've said this for the last year. This is the point where you keep your foot right there. You just keep the pressure on. You have to. This is the point where we do that. Now, why? Okay. First off, they're not going to give it up. It is our job to extract the information. That's our job. They're not going to give it up. That's not going to happen. They haven't done it before. Everything that has happened so far is because of pressure. That's it. That's number one. Number two, probably more important than anything else, but there's a third point. And number two is that all of the witnesses, the people that have seen things, that have spoken about it or not spoken about it, the millions of people around the world that have seen things, we have to do this for them. Those that have had abduction experiences, real close encounters of the third kind, those, we have to do this for them. Can't take the pressure off right now and go complacent and get frustrated. That's what the government would love for us to do. And they can just go right back making their secret plans and doing their secret stuff. And we don't know anything about it. Just as long as we're paying our taxes, going to work, buying stuff and watching cat videos on YouTube, they're fine. That's where they want it. We cannot do that. Not now. We need guys like Jazz Shaw. And here's the other piece of this. A guy like John Greenwald, he's not the government's friend. He's this community's friend. Richard Dolan, Linda Moulton Howe, Daniel Sheehan, Lou Elizondo, Chris Mellon. The list is long. It's real long. Billy Carson, great example. To constantly speak, to constantly be out there. Giorgio Tsoukalos, Ancient Aliens. These things keep the conversation going. We cannot get complacent. We cannot do it. And it kind of freaks me out where right now the suggestion that the way to move forward with the UAP issue is to classify all of the data and keep that from the public, just like Jassaw said. What is the reason for that? It doesn't make any sense. Not for us. It doesn't make any sense at all. For the government, it makes perfect sense. Let's just rubber stamp this. It's classified. That's it. And that should scare the crap out of everybody. And I honestly feel that's the exact opposite of what Gillibrand out of New York intended with this legislation, which is to do the opposite, to make this public, to look at the health issues of people that have made contact with UAPs, any crashed retrievals out there, and the technology that is involved, that goes public, and that gets reported on, right? That this data is shared. Any pilots that have a sighting, these reports go. They get investigated. They get looked into immediately, and that nothing is hidden. Right? All of these things are in the legislation. And to turn around and suggest to empower the classification process on all UAP data moving forward, no. And are we honestly going to stand for that? And here's the other part. If it wasn't for Chris Mellon and going public and writing about this, would we have known? No, I don't think that they would volunteer that information for us. You know how you find out about that? You put in a FOIA request, you ask for information, and they said, no, you can't have it. That's how you find out. You find out on the back end. And that's why we need to keep the pressure on. By Chris Mellon saying what he said very publicly, that's your checks and balance, which goes back to the freedom of the press. The ability of Chris being able to go and write this, right, and putting that out in public through the press keeps everybody in check, and that includes the government, and that also informs the public. We need this process to stay in place. So, is the silence of Susan Goff right now, is that telling of the future? Is the again, Chris Mellon talking about the Air Force going AWOL on UAP, right? Saying, no, we're not going to be a part of this. No, we're not going to talk about this. We haven't, and we're not going to moving forward. Chris Mellon stating this puts them in check and lets everybody else be focused and aware on the problems that everybody is having. Right? And that's where we are with the freedom of the press. And the frustrations of somebody like Jazz Shaw and John Greenwald. Now, I mentioned the Obama documents, and I think the number's 3,800. I could have it wrong. John, you should post something up in Twitter or send me a text. Is 3,800 documents in the Barack Obama library that reference ATIP and UAP. 3,800 documents. That is now viral in the news cycle. This has been picked up around the world by major news organizations right now. It's a pretty shocking bit of news, right? So now, and here's one of the main points that I got from John on this, and I've said this about John so many times over the years, is this. You don't want John Greenwald on your trail because he is going to get what he wants. So, where's the mistake made? Well, the mistake is made when we've got 3,800 documents here. What? That's all John needs to know. They've just said the documents are in the library. That's all John needs to know. He's not going to wait 16 years. He's not. He's going to get at those documents. The right person at the right time is John Greenwald. And you've just told him that you're sitting on 3,800 documents that detail from the Barack Obama administration, and they're in the Barack Obama library, 3,800 documents referencing ATIP and UAP. That's all that needs to happen. Those are all the tools that a guy like John Greenwald needs, because we have those freedoms. And if they're in the library, they're going to go public. That's why they're there, and that's why they're preserved. And there isn't any reason, going back to unpacking something else that Jazz Shaw said tonight before I let you go. There isn't any reason, especially in a modern context, like with ATIP and UAP, there isn't a modern reason to keep any of this classified. If it's off planet, there's no reason to keep that classified. If it's Russia, if it's the Israelis, if it's China, right? If it's the United Kingdom with this technology, is there a reason to keep it classified? Maybe. But if it's off planet, if we are talking about ET off planet, there is no reason to keep any of this classified. There isn't. There isn't a reason. And if we take it a step further, please quote me on this. If there is a threat that they know about from ET, then that is even more of a reason to make this public. You don't keep that secret. You just don't do it. You don't. There isn't a reason to keep this classified. So going back to the freedom of the press and keeping the pressure on Washington, D.C., the report, the new UAP Task Force, the information that is going through NASIC at Wright-Patterson, if it's off planet, if there's a question of its origin, there's no reason to keep it secret. There's no reason to keep it classified. There just isn't. The only thing in the classified version of that report that needs to be kept secret is if it's a foreign adversary and we are aware of their technology, then we don't want that adversary to know that we know about their technology. I get that. But if it's off planet, if it didn't originate here, there is no reason to keep this classified. That's why we need Jazz Shaw. That's why we need John Greenwald. That's why we need the Debrief. That's why we need Leslie Kane and Ralph Blumenthal and George Knapp and Jacques Vallée, even Avi Loeb, even Tucker Carlson, right? And the Chris Mellons and the Lou Elizondos of the world, right? Brian Bender. That's why we need journalists to keep the pressure on and to keep searching for the truth. I will never stop. I will never stop. By the way, I think on Sunday I'm going to hang out with Brian Bender. Looking forward to that, which means he'll be on Fade to Black here really soon. What a great show tonight. I want to thank Jazz Shaw. I had to listen, but my concerns about journalists and freedom of the press and being able to keep the pressure on and search for the truth are the fundamentals of this country, and they are the reasons why I am here. I have demonstrated that for the last 10 years, and I will never stop. I will never, ever stop. I want to thank Jazz Shaw and everybody else out there like Jazz that have chosen a career path to benefit not only this community, but this entire planet. I am your host, Jimmy Church. That wraps another first-time guests week here on Fade to Black. What a great night. Tomorrow night, right here, it's Fader Night with open lines all night long. What a great show tonight. Jazz Shaw. That dude stirs the pot. He's absolutely amazing. Fade to Black is produced by Hill J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and this broadcast owned and copyrighted 2022 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night is Thursday. It is Fader Night with open lines all night long. Until then, I want everybody to be safe. It's time to fade to black.